In this video, I want to talk about getting a horse to go over obstacles. You know, when I present at horse expos, I try to recruit a horse with an issue that the owner wants to resolve. And recently I had someone at an expo with a horse that they do obstacle work with, and their horse refuses a lot of obstacles, many times to the point of like running backwards away from them. I told the owner I didn't think the horse needed more work on obstacles, and I felt his horse didn't really trust him that well. And I'd work more on trust away from the obstacles. And a really good case in point is how trust is really helpful with obstacles. I recently took my horse Chance to an obstacle practice day. Actually, my wife was taking her horse Oscar for the obstacle practice day, and I was just taking Chance for an outing. You know, he's been in the trailer 5 times before that, once when we moved down here, and 4 other times going to the veterinarian. So he'd never really been ridden anywhere but at home. And at home he's walked over a log, but that's it. He's never walked over a bridge type platform or seen any other obstacles really. I don't really have any. So when we arrived at the obstacle course, I got on Chance and I just let him wander around. I didn't point him at any obstacles. I didn't ask him to go over any obstacles or really ask him to stand there any obstacles. I just let him walk around. And initially he walked around in between the obstacles, and sometimes he'd stop and stare at things. If he stopped and stared at things, I'd let him, and I'd wait until he was having a good change in focus, like he wasn't just fixated, but his ears be flicking back and forth and a lick and a chew before I'd ask him to move on, we'd walk somewhere else. And sometimes he'd put his head down and eat the grass, which was perfectly fine. And sometimes he'd wander away from the obstacles and have a look around the rest of the place. And sometimes we'd watch other people do some of the other obstacles, either going over them or around them, or sometimes dragging them. But at no point in time was I even thinking about asking him to go over any obstacles. I was just planning on giving him a good first experience away from home. And after about an hour of walking around, Chance was walking somewhere, and there was a bridge between him and where he was heading to, and he just walked over the bridge. So that was my cue that he was ready to be asked to go over some obstacles. So we walked over a bridge or two, through a thing they call the cowboy car wash, which is a thing that hangs down. We moved the merry-go-round around for a bit. And he climbed up on a pedestal and even went up and off it. It's the highest obstacle there. When he first approached that one, he wasn't quite sure about it, so we just sat there until he wasn't thinking about leaving, and then I just asked him to hop up on it. When we went to get off, I just asked him to walk. I didn't tell him where to get off. I just said, let's go. And he could have turned around and went back down the stairs the same way he came up, but he just walked off the big drop. Not because I've taught him obstacles, but because he trusts me and I listen to what he's telling me. You know, Robin's horse Oscar, he'd seen some obstacles before and he'd been over, a bridge or two, but he's got a lot of trust in her, and he willingly did some of the obstacles there he's never done before, and they're ones that might be usually hard for many horses, including walking through a box of empty plastic bottles. You know, he went through a tight covered wagon, and he also walked over a swinging bridge, which is something he hadn't done before. So for me, this connection work I'm big on about is not about the warm and fuzzies. It's about a horse feeling safe around you, which includes feeling safe with every decision that you make.